Next item.
Item 9D, adopt resolution authorizing the city manager to execute a construction contract with Alana's Construction, Inc. for the Commodore and Grundy Park Pathway Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $81,119, approving a construction contingency of $12,168, and appropriating $25,300 from the General Fund Capital Reserve Fund.
Honorable Mayor and Council, Commodore Park is a large San Bruno park. Grundy Park is a medium-sized neighborhood park, and this project that we're going to be going through is to asphalt the pathways running through both of those parks. The pathway systems themselves are deteriorating and have cracks and potholes caused by tree roots, settling, and water intrusion. This first set of pictures is an example at Commodore Park of the kinds of disruption of the path. The entryway, pathway along where the tree roots have in fact bulged the pathway up. Similarly around the playground areas. So in the map in front of you, the paper map in front of you, you see Commodore Park in the red. The red circles are this kind of damage that we're recommending be repaired. The complete replacement of the asphalt, the removal of the tree roots, and the handwork, because the paths are relatively narrow, the work has to be done by hand, to repave the areas in red. There are, to meet the budget, we're making recommendations that in this last picture, the picture on your right is the kind of pathway where there is no raising of the path or a limited raising of the path, that this pathway surface will not be repaired, will not have a slurry seal or a crack seal done, and that's the length along, linear length along the sort of parallel with the freeway behind the baseball field and the dog park, that would not be included in the staff's recommendation for the repair of this park. At Grundy Park, more pictures of this as we go through. I'm sorry, I'm hitting the wrong button here. Grundy is a similar area on the Grundy map in front of you. The red circle is immediately around the picnic area, and it also has the raised asphalt and the broken pathway. And the picture to the right here is an example of the pathway that's in black on your map that will not be included in the staff's recommendation. The parks were bid as two separate projects. Commodore Park was the base bid, and Grundy Park as an alternate bid. In order to reduce overall project costs and better align with the budget, the repair work is recommended to be completed with only the vital areas of paving around the picnic areas completed. The Commodore pathway would replace approximately 6,000 square feet of asphalt, and the Grundy Park pathway would replace approximately 1,300 square feet of asphalt, too damaged to repair around the picnic table areas. And in Commodore's example, too damaged around the play areas. Park pathways would not be included in the work. The revised project cost to complete Commodore Park and Grundy Park as proposed and recommended by staff is just over $97,290, which fits the budget. It's recommended that the city allow a deductive change order, which is simply we're going to change order to remove the pathway repair, so that the pathways will include only the vital and most damaged areas of the pathway. After the contract award, staff will meet with the contractor to schedule the work I've met with the contractor. They can start work by the end of the month, and it's anticipated that they'll be able to complete all the work within 30 calendar days. The recommendation is to adopt the resolution authorizing the city manager to execute the construction contract with Alaniz Construction for Commodore and Grundy Park Pathway Rehabilitation Project in the amount of $31,119, also approving a construction contingency of $12,168 and appropriating $25,300 from the general fund capital reserve to fund the complete project as staff is recommending it. Staff is available for any questions you might have.
Questions from council? Laura?
At Grundy Park, the area that's not going to be paved, the photo on the left-hand side, there's not a lot of that though, right? I mean,
Correct.
Yeah, so I know we're seeing that in the small area. Is it still possible to do a patch on if there are some small sections like that?
Well, this project has about $12,000 in contingency fund, and typically that contingency fund is used for infrastructure problems. You find a sewer pipe that's broken or some other pipe. We might have some smaller versions of that across the park with because Grundy does, they both have bathrooms. Grundy does have the bathroom right up against the path. And with the council's approval, we can make the modification to expand some of the patching or the slurry seal to these kinds of isolated areas. But we were looking for a consistent look, and the only way to do that is for about another $25,000. We can do the slurry and patch seal, but as we discussed in the previous there's just not, it's not in the budget. You're already authorizing $25,000 over out of the general fund now. But I can use the contingency fund to do exactly the thing that you're suggesting.
Well, I appreciate the options to actually not pave certain areas, and I think even at Commodore Park, that pathway doesn't really get used. It's behind the field, so I think perfect where you're suggesting that we recommend redoing the pathway. I would just say maybe at Grundy Park, I recommend that some of the areas like the image on the left does get patched, but there's not a lot of it. So.
Other comments? Go ahead, Marty.
Just want to make sure I'm understanding from the staff report that you will be doing crack fill and sealing. It says in the staff report. So you're telling me that we're not going to do that?
Correct. I outlined all the options. The original bid, which is to do all the pathways and all the slurry seal and all the crack sealing. The budget associated with that was out of reach. So with a deductive change order, I'm suggesting that we not do any slurry seal or crack seal of the areas that are in black on your map. The areas that are in red, they'll either be completely replaced or touched up if appropriate. But most of that is all going to be, it's in bad enough condition. I'm going to take it all out, remove the roots, start over with new asphalt paving. The hope is that with your approval to use the contingency fund, as we see how it's going, we're not running into any big infrastructure issues, the contractor's behaving appropriately, we can use some of the contingency funds to appropriately slurry seal or crack seal, but for this money, we will not be able to do the entire park in either place.
Okay, and so you have a cost bid item for crack sealing and slurry that is on the additional part of the work. So you could,
yes.
You have already a price determined on that.
Yes.
Right, all right.
We have a unit price for both facilities that we can expand as the contingency money is available.
All right. So I went there last night and I walked it, both parks. So the consistency in the width of our paths. At Grundy, it's 4 feet. At Commodore, it's along that one play, or not around the play structure. I mean, it's like 10 feet over there. Around this, the one in the middle, it's also 10 feet in some certain areas, and it's kind of like, well, if it was less of an area, if if you cut that in half, you'd be able to do twice the amount of repairs. So that's my first question is have you looked at maybe not make it in the pathway so big, because I believe over at City Park too, our pathways are around 4 foot. So that's one way to extend the length of your work. My concern also is when you take out roots, it kind of could impact the tree, and maybe there's some ways on the center part where you can change the route of the path and meet up on that would be the north side of it instead of staying on the south side, so that you would not have to deal with the roots ever again, because you can see where there's no roots. Mm-hmm. And as for the repair, I just want to understand the scope, that you're digging down 6 inches, putting base rock, 6 inches of base rock, and 3 inches of pavement?
Yes.
Okay. Those are kind of my suggestions of how you can maybe do some value engineering and trying to reroute things. I mean, but clearly Commodore is in horrendous shape, and getting that done is really important. I'm sure you're going to find the money to do some crack sealing, because if we don't do anything on that, it's just going to get worse. It didn't look as bad to need really a slurry. It would look a lot nicer if we slurried it, of course, but slurry's pretty cheap too. So those are my comments, and finding how maybe we could save a little bit of money of redirecting those paths and maybe decreasing the width, because they're 4 feet everywhere else, and something to think about.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from council? Irene?
I'm concerned of throwing out the idea of shortening the width. That's a tremendous amount of work to take out asphalt and put in turf to fill in where you took the asphalt out. So can we just have staff figure it out?
Well, it's a lot cheaper to put turf or put seed down than put asphalt down.
But okay, I'm not going to argue. I'll introduce the resolution to approve.
Wait. I apologize. No, I just had a question. Did you have anything?
Thank you. I was actually going to ask about the dog run, if we're making progress on it, because I was wondering if we're going to do some asphalt there, could it make sense to bid out a bigger project that included the dog run and some of this path, or is that just so far out that we're not going to consider it now?
At this point, exactly that. This project is so far along, and we're still not close with the dog park. We don't have the architect on board yet. The city manager and I have talked about a variety of ideas on managing and organizing and rebuilding, or adding to what the community has already addressed and announced that their intentions. In fact, when we walked the park today, one of the dog park users was ready for the calendar. Are we next on the schedule? They were very anxious to get it, but this budget is so tight and so limited. The ability to expand more asphalt into that isn't ready. We don't know where to put it yet.
Okay.
Would be the easy answer.
All right. Thank you.
So you've heard some comments, roots, or whether you take them out, which grow back, and so, and would our staff be doing roots if you do roots, or is it them?
The roots, like the city park project, are ours. We've got it figured out. We will work alongside them for the root cutting, the root barriers that go down to keep them from coming back. And yes, we are looking at what kind of minor modifications we can look to the location and the routing, but at this unit price is so good, it actually doesn't pencil out well to decide which public access, ADA, the routes around that playground, and then redo irrigation controls, and whatever we would replace in the gap. So at this point, the unit price here is very, very competitive, and so we will be making some on-site moves and hopefully use some of the contingency to, when we find a way that we can do it better, we certainly will.
Okay, and my final comment, and then I'll hand it over to you, Irene. Contingencies are there for those things that come up that we cannot predict. So I understand some comments came up, and I'm just speaking for myself. I don't want that to be perceived as, hey, we have extra as we walk into this project, because I want to make sure that we're getting done what we've agreed to get done
Yes.
before we go outside that, because we can't predict what we're going to find, correct?
Agreed, and that the contractor has a set amount, the deductive is set, and then it's our decision after that, not theirs.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Irene. You going to introduce? Okay. Any action from council? Mr. Resolution?
I'll introduce the resolution.
Councilmember Salazar,
Aye.
Councilmember Medina,
Aye.
Councilmember O'Connell, Vice Mayor Davis,
Aye.
Mayor Medina.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.